All right, let's jump right into this explainer and unlock a few grammar cheat codes. If you've been speaking English for a while, you probably remember those early days when prepositions actually made perfect sense. You put a cup on the table, your keys in the box, and you meet your friends at 3 o'clock. Easy, right? Physical, logical sense. But then, you hit the advanced levels, and suddenly that physical reality completely morphs into this wild, abstract puzzle. So, why do they suddenly stop making sense? If you are feeling frustrated by this, believe me, you are not alone. It's like that comforting logic of physical place and time just literally vanishes. It disappears, and we are plunged into what feels like absolute grammatical chaos. Suddenly, prepositions aren't just about where something is or when it happens. They become intricately tied to specific words for reasons that are, quite frankly, completely illogical. Which brings us to section 1, when grammar logic disappears, mastering dependent prepositions. So how do we actually bring order to this chaos? Well, to navigate advanced English, we have to tackle dependent prepositions, or what linguists call collocations. Basically, think of these as massive grammar hacks. Collocations are just word partnerships. They're absolute package deals that you simply have to memorize together. Honestly, looking at it this way takes so much pressure off. You can finally stop driving yourself crazy trying to find some hidden logic or secret grammatical law, because, spoiler alert, there isn't one. You just learn the pair. For instance, a super common trap for advanced learners is saying you are interested about a topic. I mean, it sounds completely logical, right? But it just doesn't work. The natural, correct word partnership is always interested in. As in, she is interested in history. You literally just have to lock those two words together in your brain as an unbreakable pair. And actually, this leads perfectly into another extremely common trap. Because we say interested in, our brains naturally assume we can say someone is good in or bad in a subject. Nope, not in English. You aren't good in mathematics, you are a genius at mathematics. The pairing is always, absolutely always, good at or bad at. Translating directly from your native language is another huge hurdle here. You might be completely tempted to say you are afraid from whatever is scaring you, like a ghost or something. But native speakers don't do that. In English, you are always afraid of the dark. We just immediately throw out that instinct to use from and stick right to the natural afraid of. Now, what's really fascinating about this next verb pairing is how absolutely crucial it is for sounding fluent and authoritative. You will definitely hear people mistakenly say depend of, but the undisputed correct verb preposition combination is depend on. The outcome depends on the weather. Seriously, if you memorize this one partnership, your spoken English instantly levels up. And if you want your professional emails to sound, flawlessly polite, just remember this one rule. You always apologize for an issue. You never, ever apologize about it. I apologize for the delay. See, it's clean, it's direct, and it immediately establishes you as a highly competent communicator. Finally, if you want to sound truly formal and precise, like picture a lawyer standing up in a high-stakes courtroom, you must object to something. You've got to totally abandon the instinct to say object against. I know against feels like the exact right directional word for an objection, but the immovable partnership is object to. The lawyer objected to the evidence. Simple as that. All right, let's move into section 2, prepositional phrases as modifiers and building clarity in sentences. Now that we've covered those dependent partners, let's look at how prepositional phrases act as essential tools to add descriptive clarity. They aren't just boring linking words. They're basically the paint we use to add detail to our grammar canvas. A prepositional phrase simply performs one of two absolutely crucial jobs in your sentence. It either acts as an adjective modifying a noun or as an adverb modifying a verb. Let's break down exactly how this works. To see the adjective function in action, just imagine walking into this massive, dusty old library. I point to a towering wall of texts and I say, "The book is dusty." Well, your immediate response is obviously going to be, wait, which book? The sentence is just way too vague. And boom, that is exactly where our prepositional phrase saves the day. The phrase on the top shelf answers that question perfectly. In this specific context, on the top shelf is acting entirely as an adjective. It directly modifies and identifies the noun book, telling us exactly which one we're talking about. Okay, but what about actions? If I just tell you, she sang, sure, you get the basic fact, but your brain naturally asks, how did she sing? Was she whispering? Was she belting it out? Was she totally off key? That's when we introduce a phrase like with great passion. In this sentence, that phrase functions as an adverb. It tells us exactly how the verb sang was performed. Without these phrases, your storytelling just kind of falls flat. Prepositional phrases are absolutely your secret weapon for vivid, descriptive English. Okay, let's dive into Section 3, the great preposition myth and breaking the ultimate old rule. This is honestly the most controversial part of our explainer today. You have almost certainly heard this absolute rule from traditional grammar teachers: never end a sentence with a preposition. It has been repeated in classrooms for literally generations. But we're going to see right now why clinging to this outdated advice can actually hurt your communication and make you sound incredibly unnatural. Just listen to the contrast here. Clinging to the old rule forces you to say things like, "To whom are you talking?" Now, while that's technically traditional, come on, you sound like a Victorian time traveler. It's so stiff and robotic. In modern spoken and written English, ending with a preposition, like "who are you talking to?" isn't just acceptable, it is the highly preferred natural choice. And this is especially true with relative clauses. Think about a sentence like, "That is the project on which I am working." It's just incredibly clunky. Your brain has to work overtime just to process it. Instead, you can smooth it right out by simply ending with a preposition. That is the project I am working on. It's clear, it's modern, and it feels entirely effortless. Now hold on, there is one crucial warning here. You should only end with a preposition if it's actually necessary for the meaning of the sentence. For example, asking someone, "Where are you at?" is grammatically wrong, simply because the word "at" is completely redundant. "Where are you" already conveys the full meaning. The "at" adds absolutely zero information. So drop the redundancies for sure, but definitely embrace ending sentences with those necessary prepositions. So, we've brought some order to the chaos of advanced prepositions. We've learned to memorize those tricky dependent collocations. We've seen how phrases beautifully modify our nouns and verbs. And we've completely shattered the oldest rule in the book. Which leaves me with this. What outdated, stiff grammar rule are you going to confidently break in your very next conversation? Stop worrying about the invisible rules, focus on clear, natural communication, and keep pushing your English forward.